I think the technology should be becoming such a most important factor on the service sector. Because the service sector is the sector that I see that is the new growth compass as it is. A lot of technology should be there. Of course, China, I believe that in that sector, China is very weak because of the talent. The talent is a long time, is not in place, it's with innovation in place, because the DNA in China, the innovation DNA is not in place. But then I look at the global economy, look at the US, why I feel that the US is going to drive the engine again in the next 10 years is really very much to do with the pipeline of technologies in place, because the culture in the United States is very much based on innovation, based on giving people the freedom to work on technologies all in the time. So that technology put in place is to, coming back to what I first said, is about time efficiencies in place, saving time. You look at iPhone today, it's about saving time. You look about all of these new gadgets coming out, is very much to do with how can you save people's valuable time in the way to help people enjoy more. So that technology put in place, I think is the next new growth compass.
Mm-hmm. Are you sure about that? Are you sure that technology is improving people's lives and saving time?
Absolutely. You look at today, you look at your iPhone, organizes everything for you, right? So
yeah, but people are playing Candy Crush instead of actually learning how to make things better, though. Ellen?
I'll give you a different example, so we'll get off my kids not being able to pry the iPhone out of their hands. Mm-hmm. You think about time and people working in cities and not a lot of time. Nobody prepares elaborate meals except on special occasions. Mm-hmm. So ready to eat is becoming more important. So the whole science behind that type of food is very different, and it needs shelf life. It needs different culture, enzymes, and packaging materials that allow you to move it around without being refrigerated. And so science and technology can bring to the food industry, and has been over the last few years, the dairy industry in particular, a lot of change and opportunity to create longer shelf lives, greater food safety and quality, right. And really improve that aspect of it, nutritious food on the go. Right. And that's been a massive change that science has brought to the food industry over the last few years, even here in China, that's really, as you said, made people more productive.
Boy, food. We can't get our mind off food on this panel.
Can I be a little away from the food?
It's okay, now I'm thinking about mid-afternoon snack.
You mentioned about innovation. I think everybody loves innovation, right? But it's not easy to have the innovation, because innovation need to come from a few key elements to support the whole process. Mm-hmm. What are the human capital is number one. Okay. It's very important. The second issue is in the R&D, which is important. The number three is the private and the public partnership. We need the government support, but obviously we need the private sector to lead the whole process. Mm-hmm. And we need also social settings like NGOs, other parties to join this process is also important. We need a culture so that people encourage people to try things, but even will tolerant to accept the failures. I think there's a lot of things to support innovation. I think this is very important. Right. But meanwhile, I also understand, this is the last session, I want to make one thing. When we talk about growth, we talk about sustainability of the growth. So that means when we have a growth, we need a job. We need a fair and equal distribution. If we cannot create a job, if we don't have a good distribution, the growth will not be able to sustainable. I think that's also very important issues we have to keep in mind.
Mm-hmm. Can I agree with Min here? Am I allowed?
Again?
Yeah, I know. But let me take it in a slightly more depressing direction.
Oh, good.
I think for the business people, for the investors in your audience at CNBC and here, what Min is talking about the uneven distribution of growth takes a very specific form, which is we're going to be seeing increasingly the commodification of education and the substitution for people in services by technology. And you know, you can forget food, okay? You know, we can talk about, again, healthcare. We can talk about machines that do diagnoses and dispense pharmacy, removing the need for a lot of low-level doctoring and low-level pharmaceutical work. We can talk about in education, the massive online courses that people are going. I mean, the model hasn't been worked out yet, but it decentralizes massively, and you're going to have a couple somebody was talking to me the other day, I forget who it was, but making very good, interesting point about thousands of acres, talk about land, thousands of acres of formerly useful colleges in the U.S. that will simply disappear because there's no need for them in a world where you have this decentralized education. Tsinghua will be fine, but many other universities will not. And so for the investor, for the business person, thinking about what advantages that gives you as services transform is very big. It's a lot of opportunities. That's where the parallels come into agriculture, because you're doing more and more with fewer people. But that's where we get back to where I think Min raises the very important point, which is whatever technologies we have, if the vast bulk of people or a large majority of people can't earn enough pay to purchase them, then we don't have a sustainable growth model. And that's where, unfortunately, you do have to start going back to some public policy issues. It can't all be business.
You were right. You went in a really depressing direction.
Okay, go back to food.
There was a movie called The Rise of the Machines, and I think he's writing the sequel to that or something.
I would like to add of that is, when you look at innovation, you cannot just look at innovation based on a product. Today, people are all talking about innovation on a product, a food product or electronic product, whatever product. But at the same time, you have to look at the service innovation. So innovation in the service, and then on top of that is a total supply chain innovation. And how can we become more efficient, where that we can apply technologies in place to look at end-to-end supply chain. How do we reduce the cost? At the same time, you also look at the business model innovation. So innovation should be a comprehensive thing. It's just not only a product, but product, service, supply chain, and total business model innovation. It's all in one place. There's a lot of opportunities in there if the technology can then put in place.
Right. Ellen?
But that gets back to education, and I'm not sure how soon online education will take over the brick and mortars, especially in the areas that are really critical to economic growth: science, engineering, math, technology. You know, I know in the United States, we're not graduating enough people in STEM majors to be able to fill the pipelines for the number of, you know, the aging population that are retiring in the next 10 years. And so innovation needs the fuel of young engineers and scientists and mathematicians to create that next yet step in technology that we can't even imagine what it is that'll fuel growth. And so I'm a big advocate for, if you want to keep economic growth going, population growth is going to be there. We need to make sure that we're putting our children into math and science education, engineering, to help create a much better future than I think you were discussing at that end. But I do think that it becomes a really important part of making it all fit together.
This, what you're saying actually dovetails with what Dr. Posen was saying. He made two postulates, one on, extending credit, making sure that there's support for smaller enterprises, and the other one was immigration reform, making sure that your borders are porous enough to, keep up with population growth. And this is the ongoing endless debate in the U.S., the H-1B lotteries, the PhDs that the U.S. universities graduate, the MITs, the Caltechs of the world graduate, and then send back to Bangalore or, Mumbai or China, for that matter. Do you think that the U.S. is on the cusp of losing its perch because of this one issue?
Well, I think that we can figure that one out. But why do you think I have a major research center in Shanghai and a major research center in Hyderabad? Because if I hire them in the United States and they want to go home, they can still work for me. And so I get the talent, which is really important to create the future.
Well, what a true, gives globalists and globalism a new meaning. Panelists, that's all the time we have on this program, but it's been a very entertaining and very informative chat. Thanks for tuning in to the New Growth Compass. Until next time, see you then.